an attorney? Are you burnt out, stressed out, overwhelmed, not happy with where you are in your practice in life? Well, check out this episode with Gary Miles. He's a lawyer coach. He's been a lawyer for more than 40 years. So he's gone through all the successes and failures that a lawyer typically goes through, and he's here to help. Take a listen to this episode and see for yourself.
Welcome to Cut to the Chase, where we talk about compelling legal, regulatory, and public interest information and news. Your host is Gregg Goldfarb, an attorney, entrepreneur, investor, and activist.
All right, folks, it's time for our favorite podcast, Cut to the Chase 2025. We've arrived. This podcast is primarily for lawyers, a little frustrated. The practice is not really where you want it to be. It's not what you thought. You put so much time into this. So I brought on Gary Miles, attorney, podcaster, and coach, entrepreneur, author. I'm probably missing a couple things to help you, lawyer, who's not feeling like you're happy with the way everything is going, to talk to you about what he can do for you. How are you doing today, Gary?
Gregg, I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much for letting me join you on Cut to the Chase.
All right, now, I got a couple of quotes here from you that I would like to sort of start out with on this journey here. And, you said after 4 decades in the legal trenches, I know firsthand how the practice of law can feel like a prison of your own making. Let's just start with that. I mean, is it really that bad? Are there lawyers out there that feel like they're in a prison of their own making, or maybe that is what's going on and they don't even realize it? What can we do?
Well, prison is my word. There are lawyers out there who feel stuck, who feel trapped, who feel overwhelmed, who feel overstressed. My term is to call that a prison. And I do believe it's largely of their own making. I don't know that until I speak with them that they see it that way. They see the law profession as just being so hard and overwhelming. But there are a lot of reasons why what we think about, how we handle our practice, can unlock the door of that prison and give us some freedom and some success and some joy, which many lawyers don't experience in their practice.
All right, now I was actually going through your podcast, which is an amazing resource. And for attorneys out there, I mean, there were so many interesting, fascinating topics, from the Taoism. I mean, I couldn't believe some of the things you were talking about, how to use, AI, just tons of, I think you have 283 episodes. Amazing how lawyers can use fractional CFOs, bridging the gap between law and technology, how to use digital. Are these things not? Who knew about all this when you were in law school? Were you thinking digital marketing?
Well, when I was in law school, I started in law school in 1975, and there was no such thing as digital marketing. There wasn't even hardly a thing of a computer back then. So the world of law was very different then than it is now. But there really is a whole lot of folks out there with expertises, whether it's branding, marketing, finances, that can really help the small law firm owner today to balance out what they do practicing law and running their business. Because some lawyers who have their own practice don't know where to draw the line between what they should be doing as a lawyer and what they should be doing as a business owner and entrepreneur. And that's what I often try to help them with.
All right, so give me the next two questions. Going to bundle them together, let you answer them both. Give me the target client for you that you're most successful at helping out. And for those that are listening and I'm frustrated, everybody's frustrated, billing and clients and judges and difficult opposition. You had a great episode on your podcast with how to deal with the opposition. But why you? How is it that you can help out all these people? So those were the two questions. If you need me to repeat them.
No. I'm certainly not the only person. There are a lot of folks nowadays who help lawyers, who help them be successful, who help them find freedom. And I encourage your listeners to find someone who they can relate to, who they jibe with, who they connect with, who can support them in their practice. And I'm not the only one. Why me? I've been practicing for 46 years. I owned and ran my own law practice for almost that entire time. I became the managing partner in the mid to later 80s and managed it until I moved to Pinehurst in 2021. So I made about every mistake in the book. And I don't know if that's a sales pitch or not, but I've done everything wrong. And I've learned from every one of those mistakes. And I now know how to help other lawyers not make some of the same mistakes I did. And so I am an option for lawyers, particularly if you asked about my ideal market. I've worked with brand new lawyers who are trying to figure out how to be a lawyer. I've worked with partners in big law, but my particular niche seems to be the lawyer who has his own smaller practice. Maybe a solo, maybe a partner, maybe a couple associates, couple paralegals, that world, because that's what I did. I ran a firm like that for a long time. And I've learned a lot about how to be a successful lawyer and a successful law firm owner.
So, as an attorney, I've been doing this now for 32 years. I got a lot of colleagues. We go out to lunch, I hear the various complaints, we all hem and haw and all that. Is there things that you are seeing, and some of us handle it well. We just complain. It's kind of part of, I think, human nature. But do you see that there are certain things that are going on with some lawyers that they don't even realize are issues that you can help them correct? And what types of things, like maybe you're an attorney here and you're like, I get up 3 a.m. and all of my problems start hitting me, but I just wake up and I do what I can do. Are there things that you see people having issues with that you can help them out, that'll help them advance not only their career, but their life? Because I can see that you sort of play the, aligning your practice with your core values as really, a strong motif.
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. One example, and there are a number, but one example would be what I call the concept of acceptance. I was a litigator, you're a litigator. How many times do we have that incredibly obnoxious, nasty attorney on the other side who just gets under our skin? And he calls us and our hackles go up. It's like, there he is again. And we get frustrated. He hasn't even done anything yet. We haven't answered the phone, but we're already frustrated.
Yeah.
Have you been there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Absolutely. And that's, or you and I were both in small firms, so I might not have this experience. A lot of people do. The managing partner gives you back your work product, throws it on the desk, it's red all over it. It says, this is terrible, fix it. And it's frustrating. But see, what happens is those are circumstances we can't change. That nasty lawyer is not only nasty to me, he's nasty to you. He's probably nasty to everybody he runs across. That's his style. I can't change him. It is what it is. That's how he's going to act with me and everyone else. So instead of resisting it, instead of getting frustrated because this lawyer is being who he is, just understand that that's how he is. Accept it. It's not good. We don't have to like it, but accept it. Don't fight it. Don't resist it. And then choose our response. How do we want to respond to this lawyer in the best interest of our client, but also our own sanity? So instead of when he raises his voice, me raising my voice, I'm yelling at him, he's yelling at me, just let him go. Just let him be nasty. And don't argue with it. Then just quietly state the facts, state our position. Or if we have that partner who's really nasty, instead of letting get under his skin, just understand that's how he's going to act. We can't change it. If we let it get under his skin, we're ruining our own peace, our own serenity. If we really hate it, well, then we can leave the firm because we can't deal with him. So I think a lot of times in our life, we resist outside circumstances, other people, court schedules that we can't change. And a real tactic to handling them is to accept them. They are what they are. That is the schedule. Instead of creating my own stress by worrying about it too much, just how am I going to deal with it? How am I going to get ready for that trial on Monday and that other trial on Thursday? How are we going to handle that?
Do you think that the law school process is causing a lot of lawyers to have problems down the road? And the reason I say this is because, what I remember from law school was like just such a narrow focus. You got to get on law review. you got to get a job with a big firm. And that was it. I mean, that was like the be all. And if you were not making law review, if you were not top 10%, the school didn't want anything to do with you and the teachers didn't care about you. And there was like no guidance. I just felt like like I kind of just threw my hands up and said, all right, you know what? I'm going to have to figure it out on my own. But I know a lot of people don't have that in them. Like, I'm going to figure it out. They just kind of go along with it. And then, 7 years into it, they're like, how did I get here? I wanted to be a lawyer.
Right. Well, I think two things. I think the first is law school is very, very competitive. Only the best of the best get into law school. Then they have the curve. So while everybody is exceptional, only 10% of them will get A's, and the bulk will get C's. We're not used to C's, and I want to beat you and get ahead of you in class, so I get that better job. So we already start with a competition, and that sets us up for a competitive lifestyle. And then we strive to get that job in the big firm, but we haven't taken the time to say, well, what's the work culture like there? What are my values? What am I looking for in my life? How much money do I have to make? How hard do I want to work? What do I want for my balance in my life? Do I want independence? Do I want autonomy? Do I want to be an entrepreneur? Do I want to just take what's given to me? And we never really look at our values to make a reflective choice about what kind of firm we want to go with, or do we want to work for the government or for a company? So I think a lot of it is we should take time to be self-aware and see what our values are, see what is important to us in our career. Because too often we take that job, we're there 5 or 6 years. It's like, what the heck happened? I hate it here. I hate it here. I've seen that too often.
Another group of lawyers that I get this strong sense, and maybe I'm in this group myself, are the lawyers that are now, let's just say, in the middle phase of their career, where, okay, I've, been practicing for 20 years, 30 years. The world is changing. There's artificial intelligence. At one point I was working, there wasn't even the internet. And then that came out, and I would see lawyers just say, I'm not going to deal with that. I'm not even going to, I know lawyers that still don't even know how to do email, elderly lawyers, or whatever. Are those people that you can help? Like, I know a lot of those attorneys are so stubborn. They're like, I don't care. But I think some of them actually should look into coaching. And you know what? It's like continuing legal education. But do you help? Do you help those, lawyers that are aging out, so to speak?
Well, absolutely. And I guess one would say I'm one of those, having practiced for 46 years. So I can really relate to that lawyer. I grew up in an age where there wasn't a computer. Back in the day, we had to send actually letters typed in a typewriter that went in snail mail. So I didn't grow up with email at all. But I've learned technology. I've learned the benefits of AI, and I help show other lawyers how they can modernize their practice and be more efficient.
The funny thing, I remember before computers, getting so excited when some, I don't even know who it was, maybe it was Elmer Glue or whatever, created the little whiteout. So when you were typing, you could click, oh my God, you don't even see it. I was like, this is the best. And here we are now. It's just a complete different world.
Yes, it is.
So I think that if you're an elderly attorney and you want to, like my father's 93, still practices or whatever.
Wow.
He's gonna practice till he's dead or whatever. That's where I'm going to find him or whatever. But if you're one of those attorneys, I think you got to keep up with it. And I just going through all your episodes or whatever, I can see that you have kept up with all this stuff, and all your episodes. I mean, for somebody out there that's listening that doesn't believe me, I go Free Lawyer, Apple Podcasts, I'm assuming would be where you could find it and all that.
Apple Podcast or Spotify. Yes, or they're all on my website, GaryMiles.net, and you can just watch it on your browser.
And YouTube and all that. All right, so here was my question. I consider myself a nice guy, even though I am very temperamental, and I can, ratchet it up when things are not going my way, whatever. But one of the things that I kind of touched on earlier is, your motif of transforming your legal practice by aligning it with your core values. Is that always the best thing? And I say that, like, let's just assume some of these core values are to be completely honest, completely nice, polite, and all that. And do those three ingredients produce a good result for your client? I'm not saying not to be honest, but there's a level
Well,
of honesty.
obviously not necessarily, because there's client confidentiality. If I'm defending a case that you've brought and my carrier's given me authority of $50,000, I can't say, Greg, by the way, I have authority of $50,000, because that's confidential. So obviously the honesty falls within the bounds of our obligations to our client. Dishonesty is never good. But I think how open we are, depends on that. In terms of being a nice guy, I think there's no downside to being a respectful, courteous, professional attorney. If that's what we mean by nice guy, yes. If it means being soft and being pushed around by opposing counsel, no, of course not, because then we're not doing a good job of representing our client. But the era when I learned to do litigation, unfortunately, was far more respectful and courteous than what I see today. And it may be because back in the day, you and I would work on the cases by phone, because the letters took too darn long to get there and get back. Whereas now emails are much more impersonal. It's much easier to be aggressive in an email than it is to talk to you on the phone and be aggressive, because you're a nice guy. I'm a nice guy. I don't want to be too harsh, but it's easier to be harsh in an email. So I think that we can be professional and courteous while still representing our clients. And to me, that's being a nice guy.
So I have had other coaches on my shows, and they're all outstanding. One thing that I can sense from your approach is not just to coach up the lawyer or even entrepreneur, because I know that you're not just with lawyers or whatever, you're with entrepreneurs. But not only just to coach them up to be the best lawyer that they can be and not to get in their own way, but also to sort of bring themselves a happy life. So it sounds like you're sort of doing both approaches.
Yes. Yes.
And I mean, I guess this maybe is a silly question, but are there times where you're like, wow, I really have helped you out to be a better lawyer, not let yourself get in your own way, eliminate the burnout or whatever, but they're still not enjoying life. Or is one thing working with the other automatically?
I think they go together. If the lawyer applies what I teach them about acceptance and gratitude and mindfulness and being present, not worrying so much about the future, not feeling so much regret about the past, they will be happier in their practice. But they can't help but be happier in their life too. Because all too often, the bad habits we have of resisting things we can't change, well, they probably work when we go home too. And our spouse says something we don't like. We might be reactive and speak out instead of being more thoughtful in how we respond. And someone who is very happy in their practice of law is much more likely to be very happy when they get home and are with their family.
Yeah. And I agree. I mean, I'm just kind of, delving into how effective and how broad of an approach you're actually able to effectively provide to people. So let's say I'm out there, I'm listening to this episode. Yeah, you know what? Maybe I should look into seeing whether I could help myself be a better lawyer, be a happier person, be who I am in my practice, outside of my practice. How do they get in touch with you? Can you schedule a consult?
Sure. I give courtesy consultations to anyone who wants to speak. My real passion is helping and supporting lawyers. That's just it. Now that I got away from arguing with lawyers and handling contested cases, I want to help and support as many as I can. I'm on LinkedIn under my name, Gary Miles, and my website is garymiles.net. And, I managed my firm for 3 decades. I felt very alone. I felt like I had no one to talk to, no one who I could bounce ideas off of. And you feel like you're the only person out there running your firm, but there are people who can help, people who can support you.
And, we all know as lawyers that the rate of suicide in the profession is very high. And I would say anybody out there that's even thinking like that, obviously you got to get mental health, but maybe even calling up Gary or whatever, because maybe it's just a simple little fix. Maybe you're letting that, opposing counsel just really bring you down. I mean, I've had opposing counsels that have been like so just consuming of me. And then they won, and I messed up, and they wouldn't let me, correct my stupid mistake. And I'm like, oh my God. But, I think that there's some people can make problems a lot bigger than they are. And I think that, if you're out there completely desperate, calling someone like Gary or another coach, you got to do it. Just do it. And if it doesn't work, call me up and scream at me all you want. Last thing I want to talk about, I was going through as much of your info, and I loved all of your episodes. I didn't see all the episodes, but I'm like, oh my God, gotta watch that. And one of the things I think I saw was you do like a 5-minute audit.
Yes.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I like to, go through briefly, how the person runs their practice and what I can do to help them to get it more organized and better planned. And a lot of it has to do with what we do during the day and how we plan our day. So many of us go to work, we sit at our desk and say, well, what are we going to do next? And we go from one matter into the next, don't we? The phone rings and we pick that one up and I start working on it. Then the other lure calls, I pick that up and we're rushed and unprepared. And I like to help my clients plan their day and organize what they're doing before they leave at the end of the day. Plan what you're going to do the next day, hour by hour, leaving time to return calls and return emails, and take a break between each thing we work on. It really, really helps. I like to visualize, if I finish a phone call with you, we're on the phone for 15 minutes, make notes in my case management system, then take a break. See myself visually putting that file back in the cabinet, even though we don't have files, we don't have cabinets, and taking a break, and then clearing my mind of that conversation and preparing myself mentally for the next thing I have to do.
Yeah, I love it. All right, we're going to end the show on this. I want two more of your quotes, actually not really quotes, and then I want to ask you to give a tease on one of these, on one thing that you're mentioning here. You say, let's make 2025 the year you break free from what's holding you back, whether through small steps or bold changes. Every journey toward freedom begins with a single decision to change. In the coming weeks, I'll share practical strategies and insights to help you unlock your potential and reshape your practice. If you're ready to make this year truly transformative, I'm here to help guide you. So what I would like you to do is give me a tease. You're going to share some practical strategies and insights. Let's end this episode. Give me one practical strategy that you suggest, other than what you just did about, taking a break, which between matters, which I think is an excellent suggestion.
Well, the other one that I mentioned was this concept of acceptance. I delve into that in some detail in one of my later newsletters, and how we as lures under so much stress, instead of resisting, instead of fighting, and I don't mean surrendering, but accepting those circumstances. But the other that's really important is practicing gratitude. And this might seem simple, but I have all my clients do these two things. When they wake up in the morning, I tell them to write down 3 things that day they're grateful for. And they do it every day for 30 days. But the kicker, Greg, is they can't repeat things. So if you love your wife, you can't put her down every day, So after about 20 days, you've written down 60 things you're grateful, 60 different things in your life you're grateful for. And then what you're doing is you're living that day thinking, what can I be grateful for today? And it might seem woo-woo, but trust me, it works. When you live life trying to find something to be grateful for, you're in a wholly different place instead of going through life looking for something to complain about. And then I have them each night write down the things that day that were wins, the things that worked out well. Instead of going to bed stressed about what you have to do the next day, think about what was good today, what helped, what worked.
I love it. All right, last quote from Gary Miles. All right, if you're stressed, overwhelmed, and burned out, it does not have to be that way. So if that's you, give Gary a call. I'm going to drop all of his site, his information, his podcast, his email, his website. Check it out. Listen, be my guy. Check it out first. See if you feel comfortable. Schedule a call with Gary and see what he can do, because it's your life. Time is ticking. Every day that you're upset and things are going awry is just one less day in your life that you have to enjoy. And that's what we should all be striving to do, is maximize the enjoyment of life, because there's only one thing we know about.
Absolutely. Greg, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your incredible podcast And I appreciate you very much.
All right, thanks. That'll do it for this episode of Cut to the Chase. You know what to do. Subscribe, rate, and review. Any questions, go to my YouTube channel, put it in the comments, tell me what you think. Gary and I are here to help, and don't hesitate.
Thank you, Gregg.
Takeaways from that episode with Gary Miles. Number one, if you're an attorney and you are not happy with where things are going, Gary Miles is a lawyer coach, and he can help you not only be a better lawyer and handle things better, but also bring that into your life, making your life happier, aligning your core values with your legal practice. That's number one takeaway. Number two takeaway, you got to check out his fantastic podcast, Free Lawyer, because he goes through, he's got 283 episodes on every topic that you could possibly imagine. Transitioning from a big law firm to a small law firm. How to bring in Taoism to your life to help you calm down as an attorney. Bringing in legal tech, how to handle that. So many different topics. So you got to check out his podcast because it's got a lot of episodes that you might be interested in watching. And number three is this 5-minute audit. Give him a call. He does this 5-minute audit, kind of help you narrow down what it is about you. Maybe you don't even realize what's causing you to feel like you're in prison. So check it out.
That's all for this episode of Cut to the Chase. But before you go, will you open up your podcast app and give us a 5-star review? You can also leave a comment about what you liked most or other topics you'd like us to cover. And please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming shows. Thanks, everybody. Be safe out there.